Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here I am with Anthony Matthias. He is the head of automotive at Silentium. Anthony, thank you very much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
So, Anthony, your company or the company you're working for, Silentium, do some really interesting stuff when it comes to the side of automotive and furthermore when it comes to audio systems. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the company does and also your involvement into it?
Sure. So nice to meet you, Chris. Yeah, Silentium is a company that's been around for 12, maybe more years. They're based in Tel Aviv, in Israel, but we have bases around the world. The purpose of the company was formed to create silence, basically. Not particularly in automotive to begin with, although that's where we're focusing now mostly, but to create a quiet and a well-being environment for people, whether in an office, an airplane, in transportation, train, or whatever, and to do so using a very advanced software and proprietary hardware, proprietary software, and existing hardware. So for the last few years, we've been focusing more and more on automotive. We've been talking to most of the car manufacturers around the world. We're applying our algorithms to cancel out unwanted noises, let's say inside a car. And we got to the stage now where we have our first production system and hopefully many more to come. My involvement is joined, my background is automotive engineering, both technical and commercial. Joined Silentium about 6 years ago to help promote the automotive business. And this is where we are.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds exciting. I've got a picture behind me of a Jaguar, and I understand you guys have we formed a, well, relatively recently there's been an announcement that's been made with Silentium and Jaguar. Can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership and what it involves, and furthermore, how it might impact consumers buying the vehicle?
Sure. So Jaguar Land Rover was one of the first companies we got really serious with some years ago. They saw they were one of the first to identify the potential of what we were creating in terms of software, because active noise cancellation had been around for a while. But our brand of that solution expanded the boundaries of what you can do, even with a standard audio system inside a car. So as a result, we collaborated with Jaguar's engineers and their supplier partners that are involved in this to come up with the first really truly broadband road noise cancellation system using the car's audio, which was launched recently by Jaguar a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, so in three of their new models. And this is the first time Silentium software is actually reaching the market and the consumer in a vehicle in
It's
the
very.
automotive sector.
I was going to say it's very exciting time. Specifically, how the transition towards EVs now is becoming more prominent, and the cabins are becoming a little bit more silent. So, in terms of the technology itself, how exactly does that work, and how does that interact with the audio system, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. So noise cancellation, just like the headphones people are used to, creates an anti-noise signal, exact opposite phase to the noise that you want to cancel. And it tries to deliver that anti-noise signal at your eardrums at the same moment, precise moment where the noise actually arrives as well, and therefore cancel all, most, if not all, of the unwanted noise. This is has been done with headphones for quite a while. It's much more difficult to do it without headphones because you're trying to move masses of air instead of a little golf ball size air inside the headphone. You suddenly have, let's say in a car, you have several cubic meters of air to manage pressure waves. So our system detects the signal that we want to cancel, let's say road noise created by the tires, and it calculates in real time the exact anti-noise signal to cancel those frequencies that we want to cancel, and then deliver those anti-noise signals via the car's speakers, and they can be standard speakers, using proprietary algorithms to create the anti-noise signal to arrive at the driver's or occupant ears exactly the time where the road noise is transmitted, let's say, and therefore cancel up to 90% of the noise.
It's really impressive. Actually, there was a demo that you guys have. I'll be sure to link that down in the description below for those people who are interested in it. But you have like an on and off toggle. First of all, in terms of that on and off toggle, is that going to be an option for consumers, for example, who want to toggle it on or off, or will it be on by default for all people who have the car that with your system, if that makes
Yes, that makes perfect sense. That's a good question. Our software doesn't care. It's available all the time. So really, that question is a marketing question. It depends on the car manufacturer how they want to present the system, and whether to give the option for some reason for the customer to be annoyed by noises if they want to. So my personal guess is that it's going to be a standard on all the time type of feature, just like anti-lock brakes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like I don't think it's going to be like a stability control where if you want to drift a car or whatever, you take it out. But it's down to the manufacturer. It makes no difference to us. We are available to cancel the noises all the time.
Interesting. And so you talked about the driver and occupant. So how does it work with the cabin pressure throughout the different seats? Specifically, if you've got more seats in the car or less seats in the car, or even more people in the car, how does that affect the active noise cancellation throughout the cabin?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's one of the big challenges of providing cabin-wide active noise cancellation, broadband cancellation. Silentium creates what we call the quiet bubble. It's actually a real bubble in space, maybe about a foot in diameter. It can be calibrated. That's positioned at the driver and passenger's head. So each one has the quiet bubble formed by our software and using the car's audio system. Inside the quiet bubble, we can calibrate and control the noise that we want to cancel. And actually, we can actually feed in also new noises for each of the occupants. So inside a 4 or 5 seater car, you'll have 4 or 5 bubbles created. And the challenge really has been to do the cancellation without creating enhancement, the other side of the coin. So we are able to do that, and more sophisticated systems with more and more quiet bubbles in the car use more speakers. But the hardware and the processing power of the DSPs now is fast enough to allow real-time broadband cancellation.
Interesting. And in terms of the cancellation, so with active noise cancellation headphones or even earphones or true wireless earphones, they usually have an adverse effect in terms of the mid-range frequencies, normally from what I've found in terms of my tests. How does that work when it comes to the audio system that you guys are integrating with? Does it affect the mid-range at all, or does it try and cancel itself out, if that makes sense?
So I know what you mean because of my background with the on-ear headphones. Actually, another side effect of especially in-ear cancellation headphones is the pressure that you get in your eardrums after, especially a long flight or something. That's something you don't get in the quiet bubble because you don't have anything on your ear pumping energy on your eardrums directly. In terms of mid-range or any other frequencies, that's totally calibratable by our system. So, for example, we can cancel between, depending on how good the speakers are, we can cancel between 20 hertz if we have a subwoofer to create the anti-noise, all the way up to 1 kilohertz, which is unique for Silentium at the moment. And the higher frequencies require a few more speakers near the ears because the wavelengths are very short. But to answer your question, there is no problem with mid-range or high range or low range. It will depend on what noise there is to cancel. So the more noise there is, the more we can cancel, and what speakers are available. And we try to create a pleasant effect. It's not all about just canceling sound and reducing the level. It's also the quality of the sound experience a driver or an occupant gets in a vehicle. So it's shaping sound using cancellation, and if necessary, adding sound as appropriate.
Which makes sense. And therefore it will, from my understanding, will yield to a better in-cabin experience from being a bit more silent and a bit more serene for those people who don't want to listen to music or to the radio, or for those people who do want to listen to radio and thing and be in their own, as you said, in that bubble of music without having to worry about it. So it's quite interesting.
The ultimate goal is to create for each passenger, each occupant of a vehicle, whether it's standard regular vehicle or eventually an autonomous EV, their own sound experience without disturbing their passenger or their fellow passengers. So inside that bubble, you not only cut out unwanted noise, but you also allow private telephony, private audio, so you can hear your own music, and you sitting next to me can hear your own music without me hearing it, and vice versa. So this is where we're heading. So the consumer is getting more and more demanding. Car manufacturers want to differentiate the products, and active acoustics, which we provide, allow a large part of that to be accomplished in terms of brand identity of sound shaping inside the cabin.
And this might sound like a silly question, but let's say if someone had their window open on one of the four doors, for example, will that affect the acoustic kind of chamber, if that makes sense, within the cabin?
Makes it. Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And the system is calibrated to cope up to a certain point where physics allows. If there's a lot of buffeting, a lot of very low vibrations, and then the system will back off. Because suddenly, the wind buffeting created at high speed by a partly open window, especially in big sedans and SUVs with aerodynamics, far outstrips the noise levels that you want to cancel from a tire. So the cost benefit is not there. So at that time, the system can shut off or back off a little, so we don't enhance the noise by mistake. So the short answer is yes, it copes with that. But the idea is to give a serene environment and allow the driver to be more relaxed and therefore hopefully more safe in driving without distractions and without a constant droning of the tires over a long trip.
And so where are these sensors located? Because as with headphones, I'm sure you'll know that if you were to take a left or right or even face away from sound, it's where the mics are positioned on headphones and earphones to see how it actually cancels out sound to give you the anti-noise. So how does it work when it comes to the automotive side of it? Are they sensors all around the exterior of the vehicle, or how's that work?
That's a good question. So the goal is to be able to sense directly as possible the source of the noise and the signal that you want to cancel. So for example, tire noise. Ideally, you want to sense it at the tire contact patch. That's not so practical at the moment, although one day it might come. So the nearest place would be the chassis. And there is a procedure that we have developed called noise mapping. For each car has its own acoustic signature and transfer paths for noises. So each car undergoes through a noise mapping where we identify the ideal locations for sensors. Close to the source of the noise, in this case, tires and wheels, and also the microphones inside the cabin for the cabin acoustics to be able to monitor the cancellation signals and optimize the active acoustics for all conditions. So there is a procedure to do that for every vehicle. Once you've done it, you can apply the same software from vehicle to vehicle.
Okay, and then so in terms of speaking about the vehicles, does it make a difference in terms of if they're combustion engine led vehicles or EVs, or does it make no difference for you guys in terms of providing the software and solution to manufacturers or OEMs?
So the algorithms are basically the same. They're customized for each application, but the algorithms of Silentium are proprietary and are aimed to real-time cancellation of various frequencies, broadband frequencies. Whether the vehicle has an internal combustion engine or whether it's diesel, petrol, or whether it has an electric motor or hybrid, it really doesn't make a difference. It depends what the car manufacturer wants to cancel. So we can actually cancel engine noise as well that's transmitted inside the vehicle. Or in the case of EV, there is no internal combustion engine. That highlights other issues because suddenly the tire noise is much more noticeable, the wind noise and so on. But the drivetrain, also the electric motors and gearing, if there is any, do create high frequency noises. And we are developing quite advancing solutions for high frequency cancellation as well for electric vehicles. So we can cancel petrol engine noise or diesel, or to a certain extent also electric drivetrain.
That's interesting. Okay, so we'll see how that. Maybe in Formula E they'll be doing that. I'm not sure, but that'll be quite interesting. Because that's when you hear
maybe they want to add some noise. Maybe they want to 12 scream or something.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. So
for the old guys like me.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's to see the comparison between the vehicles will be quite interesting in terms of frequencies, because obviously for those people who might not know, the active noise cancellation actually works in the lower frequencies, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the lower frequencies that it works at, and it depends on terms of the software that you implement to get that mid to higher frequencies. Is that correct, or am I saying something completely wrong?
It is, well, it's down to physics. So from terms of algorithms, they don't care. But as you go to higher frequencies, the challenge becomes how to deliver the anti-noise signal, a bit like audio, but in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
So we can cancel, as I said, we're the only ones at the moment who can cancel effectively up to 1 kilohertz for tire noise, for example. We are working much beyond that as well. Because electric drivetrains work in multiples of that 1 kilohertz. But the challenge will be to have available speakers and the cost and the size of the number close to the ears to be able to cancel much higher frequencies. So that's being developed now, and you'll see it in the market soon.
Can't wait. That'll be brilliant. It'll be nice to test it out. And so another one in terms of for manufacturers and potentially how this might whittle down to consumers, is there a benefit of using your technologies over what has been for decades, or more than decades, but in terms of using the insulated materials that are within cars and that type of material? Is there benefits of using your solution over what it is, or does it actually work in complementing it in that respect?
That's a very good question, and one of the benefits of effective active acoustics in terms of cancellation of NVH, noise vibration harshness, is it gives you the opportunity to revisit the traditional methods of NVH mitigation, which are typically stiffening up, adding mass, adding insulating materials, which on a Rolls-Royce Phantom might be okay, but it actually adds cost and weight. And in terms of EV, cuts back on range and so on. So with active acoustics, up to a certain extent, depending on physics, we can replace some of the NVH materials. Again, it depends from vehicle to vehicle, what problems they had, how much material they use. But it can be a significant saving in terms of weight and parts by using active acoustics to ensure that there is a quiet cabin instead of having to put a lot of insulating foam or carpets or stiffer panels and so on. But they also complement each other. If they're higher frequencies, sometimes it's better to have passive materials or structural isolation. And together, the two can work very, very well to provide a very good sound signature for each of the passengers.
Interesting. Okay, so that's interesting to hear. So yeah, that's very very forward-thinking technology. So it's good to see it's being implemented as it is. In terms of your future developments and future plans, I presume it's going to be conquer the world, try and get as many manufacturers on board as possible. Is that what I guess that's what the goal is for Silentium?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Silentium is now a supplier to the automotive officially since Jaguar announced. We are still a small company compared to other tier one suppliers, but obviously we want to grow. We have a host of innovations building on the active acoustics, but we already have ready solutions that can be applied tomorrow on a number of cars, including the emergence of EVs, where they can get really good benefit from active acoustics. But then we want to ultimately offer that solution to all sorts of environments, not just vehicles that we're talking about here, but the same kind of solution, the same kind of software solutions to be applied in the office or in a plane or in a hotel or in a hospital, wherever people are and wherever people want to have a quiet, peaceful environment, be it for work or recovery or just to enjoy music. Because when you cancel unwanted noise, suddenly your hi-fi audio sounds a lot better at much lower volume.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting you mentioned planes. I didn't even think about that. Is the technology, could it be integrated in planes specifically? Like there's more EVOL aircrafts that are potentially being developed. Is that something as well that can be developed in a cabin? It almost like defeat the point of having active noise cancellation headphones in planes.
Yeah, ultimately that would be the goal. We already are working in this area with a number of aviation companies. For example, the high class or first class or business class seats, where you have room to also install headrest speakers. We can create quiet bubbles for each of the passenger, in this case to cut out jet engine noise and so on. But it also ultimately provide your own, again, personal audio environment, even though you're sitting next to each other. So yeah, that's already happening in the train industry. We've applied our solution in some train applications.
Nice.
But also we've applied in consumer goods. I know it's a car program, but the same kind of solution, canceling out noise, you can have it in your cooker hood. You can buy it tomorrow with Silentium noise cancellation.
I need to look into that. I'm looking to replace my cooker hood, so I think I might need to I need to contact you.
Talk to us before you buy one.
There we go. Yeah, I might have to do that. Yeah, it's actually it's just simple thing, but something that a lot of people can relate to. Maybe some people don't own cars, but they they have a kitchen, and that's something that's, for me, it actually annoys me the most in our kitchen. Our cooker hood is actually really loud. It's completely off the subject, but it's true. So yeah, that's interesting. That's great. And then finally, I'll say, just reeling it back into cars, is there a safety element, do you think, that there is a benefit here of using your solution over not using your solution?
So yes, there is, and it will vary from application to application. Of course, if you provide a driver of a commercial vehicle, let's say electric as well, in the future, over long hauls, if you provide the driver with a quieter, more relaxed interior, it follows that it's going to be a safer driver instead of being tired and bored or whatever. So there is the safety element there, that providing a pleasant experience for the driver of the vehicle should lead to a safer drive. There's also the legislation side, where there's situations where the noise levels are close to or even above legal limits in terms of legislation, whether commercial vehicles in particular, where again our active solution can reduce that to well below maximum limits, again for safety, but also for meeting regulations.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well that's really very intriguing to me personally, as someone who's a bit of an audio enthusiast and loves looking at audio gear within cars. That honestly concludes the interview. However, Anthony, have you got anything else you want to add to it? Is there anything else you want to highlight, or have we covered everything?
Well, we can talk for a long time on active acoustics, but no, I think we covered the basics, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to present what Silentium has brought to market. And hopefully we'll have more of these interviews in the future as more solutions come out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Anthony. I really appreciate it. And again, for those people who are interested in your technologies, they can check it in the description down below. And of course, with Jaguar's integration as well. So very much intrigued for those people who are interested in the subject. So thank you again for your time.
You're welcome. Take care.